What's up, fantasy managers? I want to talk about the big guys up front because they should be able to eat their cake too. The offensive line is important for your fantasy players to score a point. I have the offensive line report for week 12 that you should know about. I know you're interested, so stick around for 7 seconds. This information can help you decide your own fantasy tiebreakers, who to start, who to sit. By understanding who has the advantage in the trenches will give you an advantage over your league mates. I have 3 players you want to target. I have 3 players you want to avoid. All this information is on PFF. I subscribe to it, so you don't have to, but I will relay the information to you, starting with my notes right now. And let's look at the first matchup. It is the Broncos versus the Raiders. We are targeting the Broncos offensive line. Second week in a row we've done that. Look what they did to Atlanta last week. The Broncos offensive line is doing great. The Broncos offensive line owns a 82.6 pass blocking grade, the second best mark in the league, allowing just a 15.2% pressure rate. That is the league's best mark. The Raiders defensive line has managed just a 63.7 pass rush grade, which ranks 25th overall, while generating a 28.6% pressure rate. That's the third worst mark in the league. So once again, the Broncos are having back-to-back weeks where they are going up against a defensive line that cannot get to the quarterback at all. They suck getting to the quarterback at all. And holy shit, look at the Broncos offensive line. They are protecting their quarterback, and that is exactly who we're going to target again this week. Last week, he was on here, someone that you wanted to light up, and he only finished up as quarterback 3 on the week. So I know it benefited you. And PFF, they're going to roll it again. The person this will benefit is Bo Nix. And I like Bo. Bo is my guy. Since week 5, Bo has put up 22, 20, 13, 29, 16, 16, and 30 points a week. This guy's playing out of his mind. This guy's playing great. I actually have him in one of my leagues, and it's between him and Jordan Love. And you know what? I am playing this guy every time. I'm loving the matchup. I love what he's doing. He is 6th in pass attempts. He is 1st in deep ball attempts. 7th in red zone attempts. So even when he's getting to the red zone, he's throwing the ball. They're not running it. And when it's a clean pocket, he is top 20 in clean pocket completion percentage. And we were just talking about how he's going up against a defense that does not allow pressure to a quarterback. And his offensive line actually love to save him. They make sure that he doesn't need to do laundry that night. So he's got a clean pocket. He loves to throw the ball. He loves to throw deep. He loves to throw in the red zone. This guy is performing for you. His fantasy points per drop back, he's number 15th overall. You got this guy off your waiver wire. I'm really liking him. And PFF says after highlighting Nix last week when he finished as a top 5 fantasy quarterback, it's almost impossible not to go back to the well and believe him again. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that was cheesy as fuck. Nix earned an 84.4 passing grade when kept clean this season, which tied with Josh Allen as the 11th best mark among quarterbacks. I think that's pretty good company. Nix has thrown 86% of his touchdown passes from a clean pocket, the second best mark among quarterbacks with at least 250 dropbacks. Nix's 11 big-time throws are tied for the 4th most from a clean pocket, while his 1% turnover-worthy play rate is tied for the 7th best when kept clean. Nix's rushing ability is also a part of his game when he isn't pressured. He owns 17 total scrambles when kept clean. That's the most in the league. So I said this before. When he's in a clean pocket, he'll run. When he's pressured, he'd run. But also when he's in a clean pocket, he'll throw it. And he'll throw it deep. And the person he's normally throwing the ball to is Courtland Sutton. So if you have those two, if you can stack them, I would continue to stack them. Last week they got you over 40 points combined. I would keep on doing that. The Raiders are allowing the 8th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks and ranked as the best overall matchup for quarterbacks according to PFF Strength of Schedule tool. If you got this guy, I have him. I'm putting him in your lineup. You should put him in your lineup to light up the points for your fantasy roster this week. And the second matchup that we want to focus is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Green Bay Packers. The 49ers offensive line has been a slightly above average pass blocking unit, earning a 72.1 pass blocking grade, that's 14th overall, and allowing a 25.8% pressure rate, that's 16th. So they're kind of in the middle of the pack when it comes to protection. The Packers defensive line has managed just a 58.4 pass rush grade, 29th overall, while generating a 32.8% pressure rate. That's 20th. I actually started the Packers D last week because they faced against the Bears, where the Bears in the previous weeks before that gave up 6 sacks each game. So I'm like, I'm going to get some sacks from the Packers. No, I did not get 6 sacks from the Packers. I did get a blocked field goal, though. But anyway, so this is saying because of how bad the matchup is, even though the 49ers are a middle of the pack, average, maybe a little bit above average offensive line when it comes to protecting, that this is a matchup that you want to target. And the player that this is going to benefit, the player that you want to target, I'm not going to get cute about it. I'm just going to talk about it real quick, get right through it, because it's Jauan Jennings. But the shitty thing is Brock Purdy is out. And the person, the target is Jauan Jennings. The bad thing is, I believe this is the case because of how Brock Purdy is, and Brock Purdy is now out. So now they got to back up Brandon Allen. Who knows what's going to happen? He was drafted by the Jaguars, Duval County, and then traveled. He's a journeyman. He's traveled to like 4 different teams, and now he's on the 49ers. I actually don't know where this is going to go. I'm still going to read everything, but I do believe there's a shot that Deebo Samuel can outperform Jauan Jennings, because Deebo Samuel's ADOT is actually closer to the line of scrimmage, which is great. That's like a safety valve when it comes to backup quarterbacks. So, but you never know, though. PFF, they're experts. I'm over here just talking to people on the internet that I've never met, trying to make new friends. So I'll just read it. If it happens, great. If not, I told you so. I don't know. On non-pressure dropbacks, Jennings is earning an elite 33.1% target rate, which is not just the highest mark on the team among qualifying wide receivers and tight ends, but also ranks as the 10th best mark in the league among 151 qualifiers. As a result, Jennings has managed a 0.67 PPR points per route run. That's the 6th best among the same 151 qualifiers across both positions. Jennings' 3.72 yards per route run on non-pressure dropbacks is the best among that same cohort. So the 49ers wide receivers own the 4th best matchup according to PFF's strength of schedule tool. After finishing as PPR wide receiver 7 last week, he'll have a shot to finish among the top 10 wide receivers again this week if he continues to dominate in those situations. So I'm just here just reading, but like I said, this came out before Brock Purdy's announcement that he's not going to be playing, so flip a coin on this one. I guess there's still a chance, but I'm going to go with Deebo having a bigger game. And the third game we're going to focus on is the New York Giants versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And yes, we are targeting the New York Giants offensive line because they have generated a 1.4 rushing yards before contact per attempt. That is 6th best in the league. While the Buccaneers defensive line has allowed 1.5 rushing yards before contact per attempt. That ranks 25th in the league. So who's this going to benefit? It's going to benefit the running backs. Tyler, my colleague, who also puts out videos on here, he has a video, wide receiver versus cornerback cheat sheet. It's great. Look it up. It can really help you out in fantasy. Put these 2 videos together, and you will be unstoppable. Anyway, he said earlier this week he read a report that the Giants are going to go run heavy against the Buccaneers. They lost Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is out there. They released him. They paid him that money, and then they released him. They should have never paid him. That's a whole different episode. That's a whole different show. So who's this going to benefit? Let's think about who's going to benefit. Obviously, it's going to benefit the running back. So which running back? Let's think. Devin Singletary, remember him? No, not going to benefit him at all. Snap share, 36 overall. Opportunity share, 34th overall. Weighted opportunities, 39th overall. Carries, 36 overall. Targets, 43rd overall. Red zone touches, 51st overall with only goal line carry. This guy, they got him in the offseason, but they don't need him. They don't use him. They use the other guy. They use the rookie. They use the young buck. And that person that this is going to benefit the most is Tyrone Tracey. And honestly, once they gave Tyrone Tracey a chance, he's never looked back. He's had, since week 5, he's had 18 carries, week 6, 17 carries, and week 8, when Singletary came back, they're going to split the load. No, screw that. Fuck that. Pittsburgh, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he carried the ball 20 times, 145 yards and 1 touchdown, 23 points. Against Washington, 16 carries. Against Carolina, 18 carries. This is his team. His explosive rating, he's in the top 15. His yards per touch, he's 11. He's a good running back. He's the primary running back going forward, so this is why it benefits him this week against the Buccaneers, who, like I said, the Giants are going to run heavy. They don't have Daniel Jones, so they're going to run heavy. They're going to use this advantage of the trenches to try to win this game. And according to PFF, Tracey has fully taken over the Giants' backfield. Even with the change at quarterback, there shouldn't be a concern about his ability to produce, considering what he's proven so far this season. Since week 5, when given at least 1 yard before contact, Tracey has earned a 90.0 rushing grade, which ranks 13th among 37 qualifiers. His 7.9 yards per carry is also the 5th best marked under those same qualifiers. All right. Tampa Bay is also allowing this 6th most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs, which is ideal scenario for Tracey, who has dominated the touches in New York as of late. Yes, this game, they're going to use the crap out of him. He's going to get a lot of rushes. My only concern is that Tampa Bay is a better offense. Their offense is better than their defense. I feel like they're going to put up a lot of points, and they can happen quick. But the good thing is Tyrone Tracey can also catch the ball. He's a pass-catching running back. He's going to be in that backfield a lot. He's going to be used a lot. Put him in your lineup to light up the fantasy points for Week 12. And let's get into the fourth game. And yes, I said it, the fourth game. PFF has heard the cries in the street. They are answering our prayers, and they're giving us a fourth player to target, and that player is in the game of the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Carolina Panthers. We are targeting the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. The Chiefs offensive line has earned a 75.9 pass blocking grade. That is sixth best in the league, while allowing just a 21.3 pressure rate. That's fifth best. Carolina's defensive line ranks 32nd in pass rush grade. That is dead last, with a pressure rate of 24% and quick pressure rate of 10%. So you're literally going up against the worst team when it comes to the pressure rate, and you got a team that is led by Patrick Mahomes and an amazing offensive line and Andy Reid back there. So who's this going to benefit? It's going to benefit Patrick Mahomes, right? But Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't matter. He has one of the best offensive lines, and he's been playing kind of shit this year. He does have a good chance to go up against, or to have a big game this week, because Carolina Panthers, their defense sucks. You start everybody against the Carolina Panthers. But we're not talking about quarterbacks. Maybe Xavier Worthy, but he's too inconsistent. Maybe Travis Kelce this benefits, but we're not talking about tight ends. No, we're going after the one that everyone's been waiting for, as somebody who will impact your lineup and light it up this week, DeAndre Hopkins. Since joining the Chiefs in Week 8, Hopkins has had just one big fantasy performance, but could be in line for another one this week against the Panthers. The previous one, he scored almost 30 points, and it was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also have a very bad secondary, just like the Carolina Panthers. On non-pressure dropbacks, Hopkins is seeing a very strong 25.8% target rate. That's second best mark on the team, behind only, I bet you already know, Travis Kelce. Hopkins has seen 15 catchable targets on non-pressure dropbacks and caught all of them, leading to 2 touchdowns and 134 yards. Hopkins' 0.58 fantasy points per route run on non-pressure dropbacks for the season is a top 20 mark, and his time with the Chiefs has yielded a higher average of 0.61 fantasy points per dropback on non-pressure plays. So even before, it was 0.58, but now when he's a Chief, it's 0.61, so it just keeps getting better and better. He's getting familiar with the system. Patrick Mahomes, if this doesn't turn out to just being a Kareem Hunt, running all over them, the Carolina Panthers, getting those goal line touchdowns, Hopkins can actually have a pretty good performance and be worthy enough, not Xavier worthy, but can be good enough, to put in your lineup, and you should feel comfortable doing it this week. It looks like he has a very strong matchup, and he should be able to give you high flex, low wide receiver 2 numbers this week. If you made it this far, and if you're enjoying the information I'm giving you about the offensive line report for Week 12, then please hit the subscribe and press a like. It goes a long way. We actually have a new goal now because we were able to reach 1,500. Our new goal is 2,000. We can't get there without you guys. We appreciate all you zoners out there. Everything and anything goes a long way. Thank you for watching. Since now we're done talking about the players that are going to light up your fantasy team, that's going to light that fire, we got to talk about the other side. We got to talk about the opposite. We got to talk about the ice. These are going to be players that we're going to try to avoid. These are going to be players that we're going to try to ice out of your lineups. And the first game that we're going to discuss is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Los Angeles Rams. The Eagles defensive line has earned a 82.2 pass rush grade. That's the second best mark this season, while their 25.1% quick pressure rate is also top 10 mark. The Rams offensive line ranks just 30th in pass blocking grade. That's 52.1, allowing an 11.9% knockdown. That is sacks plus quarterback hits rate, which is the third highest mark on the year. So we got the Rams that can't really protect their quarterback well, but then you also got the Eagles offensive line that they put a lot of pressure and they do it quick. Who can this impact? And the first players I'm thinking about that this will impact is going to be the wide receivers for the Rams. Because, of course, if Matthew Stafford's getting on that pressure and if it's happening quick, he's not going to get the ball out. It's going to affect them. They already have such a bad matchup. I'm looking at the wide receiver cornerback cheat sheet that Tyler puts out every Wednesday. Go check it out. It can really help your fantasy lineups. And I'm looking at the secondary for the Eagles, and they are tough. Quentin Mitchell, he only allows 0.16 fantasy points per route run. Darius Slay, we know him. He only allows 0.23 points or fantasy points per route run. Cooper DeJean, He only allows 0.18 fantasy points per route run. So they already got a tough matchup. Yes, I know. Puka Nacua, they're elite. Cooper Kupp, he's elite. But the secondary is tough. And now you're telling me the defensive line is going to be overwhelming Matthew Stafford. This is not good. Matthew Stafford is going to have a very tough game. When Matthew Stafford actually has a clean pocket, his clean pocket completion percentage is number 2. It is second best in the league at 73.5%. But when he's getting pressured, when his completion percentage while being pressured is 35th in the league at 46.7%, that is a huge difference. So we're going to see Matthew Stafford throwing inaccurate balls. This is a guy that is probably on your waiver wire, and you might want to leave him this week. So the 2 quarterbacks are probably on your waiver wire, either Tua or Matthew Stafford. If you had to pick one of them for streaming, because there's a lot of buys this week, I'm going to go with Tua. So PFF says Stafford may seem like an enticing option in a week with 6 teams on a bye. So he is someone widely available on most waiver wires, even after throwing for 4 touchdowns last week. That's something that we just discussed. That's what I just said. However, when diving into the matchup a bit, it's clear that this is a week to avoid him, especially when considering the disadvantage of the matchup in the trenches. When under pressure this season, Stafford has managed just a 29.9 passing grade. That is 36 at the position. Stafford has also been responsible for 10 turnover-worthy plays when pressured, second most among quarterbacks. As a result, he's thrown 5 interceptions, tied for third most, and just 2 touchdowns, tied for 25th. Only 15.4% of Stafford's passing touchdowns have come when under pressure, the 4th worst mark among quarterbacks with at least 250 total dropbacks this season. The Eagles are also allowing the 29th most fantasy points per game to quarterback at the position this season at 13.8. Holy shit. You are not going to touch this guy this week. Leave him on your waiver wire. He already has a bad matchup with his wide receivers against the cornerbacks. It's not good. Now you're telling me the defensive line is going to overpower him, and when he's pressured, he just sucks. He's all about the clean pocket. He needs the clean pocket for his Cooper Kupp, for his Puka Nacua to run the routes to get open, because that's what they do. He's not going to have enough time back there, and then when he does get pressured, only 15.4% of Stafford's passing touchdowns have come from under pressure. He does not do well under pressure. You got to leave this guy alone. Ice this guy out of your lineups. And then the last game we're going to discuss today, this is the last one we're going to talk about, players to avoid. And we're going back, again, for the 4th straight week. We're going to the New England Patriots offensive line versus the Miami Dolphins. But this week we're not trying to avoid Drake May. So New England's offensive line is generating just a 0.8 rushing yards before contact per attempt, which ranks 30th, while they also rank 25th in run defense grade at 56.9. Miami's defensive line has allowed just 0.6 rushing yards before contact per attempt. That's the best mark in the league, while their overall run defense grade is 70, which ranks 12th. So it's back to the Patriots offensive line. They are not good. They can't pass protect. They can't open up holes for Steveson. And that's what it's basically saying right here, that they suck even at run blocking. They're 30th overall. Their grade is 25th. Miami's offense or defensive line has allowed just a 0.6 rushing yards before contact. That is like before even a yard, these running backs are getting hit by the defensive line from the Miami Dolphins. And now they have even an easier matchup to get in the backfield to stop Steveson. That's a guy we're going to try to ice out this week. If you could try to not play him, we're going to try to ice out Rhamondre Steveson. And as I get pushed further into the corner here, I want to also say that this could be a reach for PFF, because the Miami Dolphins have allowed the 9th most points to running backs with 24.2, 10 rushing touchdowns, 46 receptions from running backs, and 3 receiving touchdowns from running backs. And, Rhamondre Steveson, he can run, and he can also catch. So this might be a reach for PFF. Rhamondre Steveson, his snap share, he's 12th overall. His carries, he's 14th overall. He's 14th in targets. His red zone, he's 4th overall with 8 goal line carries. So this guy, all he's going to do is run the ball. They don't even care if he doesn't do well running it. They're just going to keep giving him the ball. This guy averages around 15 carries a game and then 3 targets a game. So he's getting 18 opportunities a game against a team that does allow rushing touchdowns and receptions and receiving touchdowns to running backs. So, unless there's something I'm completely missing here, this could be a reach. So, PFF is saying here, when contacted 2 or fewer yards from the line of scrimmage, Steveson is averaging just a 2.7 yards per carry, which ranks 29th among 50 qualifying running backs. Steveson, 55.2 rushing grade, ranks 42nd among those same qualifiers, as his 2.8 yards after contact per attempt also ranks just 31st in those situations. In a week where there are 6 teams on bye, it's always difficult to strongly suggest a player to be avoided, as there are limited options out there. So be aware of who is being chosen to replace Steveson in your fantasy lineup this week. If you can afford him, to bench him. New England's matchup for running backs ranked 17th of 26 according to PFF strength of schedule tool this week. So yeah, PFF, it's kind of a tough week because there's a lot of people on bye. You don't want to switch them out for somebody who has the potential to play as poor as the potential that Rhamondre Steveson will have this upcoming week. If there's somebody that you're unsure of, you can always drop comments on this video and we can get back to you and answer those questions, and we can help you out on who to start, who to sit. If you're having troubles with Rhamondre Steveson this week, but I would try to ice him out according to PFF. Now I want to jump into my quick hits. I go over some games that you either want to be a part of or stay away from. And the first game I want to talk about is the Baltimore Ravens and the Chargers. I'm talking about the passing here, and it looks like the Ravens have a 33% advantage in the passing game. Their pressure rate is 26%, while the Chargers' pressure rate is 29%. So that's kind of like both average when it comes to the offensive line allowing pressure and the defensive line getting pressure. But this is the important one right here. Lamar Jackson, he only gets He only gets sacked 5% of the time out of the 26% of the pressure. If that makes sense, I don't know if that makes sense. So 26% of the time when he's pressured, it's converted into sacks 5% of the time. That is one of the lowest, if not the lowest. So even though the Chargers, their defensive line, when they pressure 29% of the time, is converted to sacks 19% of the time, they are still saying the Ravens have a 33% advantage. I do believe this is going to be an aerial assault game. Both of them are pretty great at stopping the run. So I think we're going to see Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson just air in and out. The over and under in this game, I think it's the highest at 50. So Baltimore, if you have Zay Flowers, if you have Mark Andrews, I don't know about Deontay Johnson, maybe Rashad Bateman. If you're dealing with bye weeks, put them in there. I think they're going to do great this week. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored through the air. Hopefully, maybe just one rushing touchdown for me and Derrick Henry, maybe. And then the next game I want to look at, we kind of already talked about this earlier, is the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line against the Panthers defensive line. I talked about how there is a chance that Kareem Hunt can have himself a good game, and this is actually telling me that there is a good chance that he will have a good game. And if that's the case, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins may not have that good of a game as PFF is saying that Hopkins might have, but you never know. Any given Sunday, right? So I'm just here to let you know that the Kansas City Chiefs, they earn a 1.30 yards before contact. That's a little bit above average, so that's pretty good for them. But then when you come to Carolina, their defensive line allows 1.39 yards before contact. That is poor. So that means they're going to be wide open holes for Kareem Hunt to run through. And then let's get to the goal line, right? Let's talk about rushes inside the 5-yard line. That's where Kareem Hunt excels at. The Chiefs have done 25. They have 25 runs inside of the 5-yard line, converted 28% of the time. But dude, 25 runs inside the 5, that is a lot. So even if they don't succeed, try again until they do succeed. That's what it looks like here, that they keep running. And then when you look at inside the 5, and then when you look at the Panthers on the other side, they've allowed 21 runs inside the 5-yard line and given up almost 50%. Almost 50% of it has been converted into a touchdown. So their running game, the Carolina Panthers, they give up a lot in yards before contact. They give up a lot of runs inside the 5-yard line, and most of the time, about half the time in those runs, turn into a touchdowns. Yeah, this could be a good game for Kareem Hunt, especially with Isaiah Pacheco not playing this game. Kareem Hunt can excel in this game, and I can't even talk. Oh, it's late. Excel in this game, and so he's probably somebody that you want to put in your lineup. Now let's finish this thing with the games that will have a disadvantage in the passing and in the running that we want to try to avoid. And the game that I'm looking at here is the Tennessee Titans offensive line against the Houston Texans defensive line. The Texans, they allow 32% pressure rate. That is not good. That's pretty bad, which is converted into sacks 17% of the time. But the Houston Texans, they pressure the quarterback 31% of the time, which is turned into sacks 18% of the time. So this is obviously a bad matchup for the Titans offensive line. I mean, in general, it's going to be a bad matchup for Will Levis. And then when I go to the wide receiver quarterback matchup here, I got the Tennessee Titans here. The Houston Texans, their cornerbacks, 0.24 fantasy points per route run, 0.18 fantasy points per route run. And then, well, they do got a 0.32, which is okay. And he's going to be going up against Tyler Boyd. Who the fuck plays Tyler Boyd nowadays? Nobody. So this is somebody, I mean, Calvin Ridley, who, what do you got here? He's going against Stingley. Stingley's been pretty damn good, and he's only allowing 0.18 fantasy points per route run. So it's going to be a pretty tough matchup for Ridley. It's going to be a tough matchup for Will Levis. If I can, I'm probably not going to play these guys, especially Will Levis. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Ain't going to happen. And then the last game, I actually want to stick with the Titans versus the Texans, but the Texans offensive line against Tennessee Titans defensive line. The Houston Texans offensive line has a negative 20, has a disadvantage of 20% in the run game. And from what I've seen here, look, they both match out. The Texans, they earn 1.23 yards before contact. The Titans allow 1.23 yards before contact. That pretty much evens out. But when it comes to the goal line, the Tennessee Titans, they've allowed 20 rushes inside the 5 and only be converted into 30% of the time. And they're saying that overpowers this 55% of the time for the Houston Texans. This will be tough because I feel like you're going to play Joe Mixon either way. You're going to play him either way because he's playing really great this year. I wish I had him on my team, but I don't. I only go up against him. You play Joe Mixon every time. He's one of the top backs, but don't be surprised once they get in the goal line if they can't convert because of how stingy the Tennessee Titans defense is at the goal line. Now that's a wrap for the offensive line report for Week 12. Now you know about the 3 players, actually the 4 players that you want to target and the 2 players that you want to avoid. Plus you have more information about additional games that you want to be a part of or stay away. Every Friday night, Tyler and I do a live breaking show and answer questions from the chat. If you want to know where your players landed on Week 12 rankings, if they're going to be ranked high, if they're going to be ranked low, click this video right here. I will talk to you in that video. Deuces.